We know that after a visit to Roadshow, most guests simply take their treasures home and put them away. Not so in the story of a small, rusty metal sign from a significant 1949 concert and its connection to folk legend and civil rights activist Pete Seeger.
It was 2014, and I came to Charleston, West Virginia, and brought along with me my sign.
I went to an antique store in Rosendale, New York, not far from Peekskill, on the other side of the river, and I happened to see it in there and didn't think much of it when I first saw it. It wasn't until a couple months later, after reading Pete's book and realizing that the Peekskill riots had happened, and I said, why does that ring a bell, Peekskill Drive-In? I was friends with Pete most of my adult life. He recently passed. I was at his bedside when he passed, and spent many fun times with him, sailing, singing. I probably got this signed in 2008, something like that.
The Hollowbrook Drive-In incident with Pete Seeger and Paul Robeson is kind of an infamous segment in American history. Both he and Pete Seeger were politically interested, and they were for the rights of the unions, rights of freedom in America.
The concert was originally scheduled a few days earlier, and protest rallies caused it to be shut down, but they weren't going to be moved, so they reorganized it for September 4th, 1949.
And that was held in a drive-in theater, this drive-in theater here.
An organizer put together this show with the legendary performer Paul Robeson and Pete Seeger and others. Well, the literal event was held for the support of the unions. It really was in support of what would be called leftist, at that time, ideas and goals for justice for all people. And Peekskill at the time was a pretty conservative town. It was basically putting on this event in the lion's den. And those people who were not in favor of that were not having this. Pete Seeger and Paul Robeson and others were basically attacked by an angry mob. It got physical.
At the end of the show, the motorcades started to leave, and I believe that Paul had gone ahead of Pete, that his car had.
They were each in separate cars.
What the people who were against it did is they basically channeled everyone to leave down this gauntlet. And there were literally piles of rocks the size of grapefruits on both sides of the road. And people just stoned every car that went out of there.
I do know what happened to Pete's car. Every window in his car was busted out by rocks. One of the rocks came through the window and missed his son's head by inches.
One of the men in the motorcade lost his eye.
It was really a violent time.
To look at the sign, there's a condition issue, but it's an icon from American history. The value on it at auction is $2,000 to $3,000.
Holy cannoli. Really?
Good find, good signature.
Shortly after the show aired, I was contacted by a woman named Dina McLeod, who I knew sort of in the world of folk music.
When I was the founding executive director of the Woody Guthrie Center in Tulsa, I was preparing to curate an exhibit about Pete Seeger.
And she called me and said, hey, Tom, I saw you on TV.
I was watching it and saw this holy cannoli guy and thought that is a perfect addition to this exhibit. Fast forward to this new iteration of curating exhibits for the Folk Americana Roots Hall of Fame. And of course, we wanted to include things from the founders of this music. So I contacted my friend Tom again. He has loaned this to us on a long-term basis so that it can be a permanent exhibit here at the Hall of Fame in Boston. It may be just a tin sign, but it's not just a tin sign, right? It represents something so much deeper, and we have to share the history of where we come from to the new generation. Otherwise, how will they ever know the importance of this just a sign?
To think that the sign is here with other important artifacts, I get a smile on my face knowing that. Because what good is it hanging in my office?